Hey, welcome to my 2013 Journey to the Worlds. I'm Eric Jones, and I'm looking forward to going back and defending my title of the 2013 World Long Drive Championships. Today, in this video, I'm going to be talking about two more little things in my setup that I do that can make a really big difference. One is tee height, and the other is ball position, and specifically the way I line my golf ball up so that I have a logo or something, a dot, some mark at the back, what we call a 6 o'clock position. So I'm going to show you exactly what we do and exactly how I set that up, and I'll split this video up a little bit because I need to do a close-up so you see exactly what I do with my hands and how I hold my hands to do the tee height, and then how I arrange the golf ball when we do it. The basic idea, the whole thought process behind it is this. For me to be consistent, I want my ball to be teed up at exactly the same height every time. So how do I do that? Some of the tees will come with some markers, like this one has a blue marker on it, and that'll allow you to make sure that the ball is teed up exactly the same height every time. But I don't know if I'm always going to have those tees, so I've developed a little process myself that I use. And what I do is I take the ball and I hold it between my thumb and forefinger, and I stick the tee to it, and I stick the tee out like it's a plunger. And that way I use the ball to drive the tee into the ground. But then what I do is I'll stick my ring finger out on the right hand, or my little finger out, depending on how high I want to tee the ball up, and I'll use that like a plunger. In other words, as I stick the ball into the ground using this, I'll wait until the ground hits the tip of my finger and I know that it's teed up at exactly the same height every time. Now I'll show you how I do this, and we'll try and do a little bit of a close-up when we do it. The second thing that I do is, no matter how the ball ends up oriented in my hands, the other thing that I do is I always rotate it so that the logo is in the back of the ball. So even if it's in just a random position on the ball, it only takes me a second to take it and make sure that it's lined up so that the logo, or in this case when I'm using range balls, I'll use the red stripe. The red stripe is always in the back. Now the target is a position we call 12 o'clock. If you think of a clock, the target's always 12 o'clock, so the back of the ball is 6 o'clock. And that's important because what I want to do is I want to make sure my eyes are at a 6 o'clock position when I make impact. That's really, really important. I can't tell you how many students that I work with, and I ask them where their eyes are on the ball, and first off, they're not even sure they even see the ball at impact, but secondly, they just sort of see generally the ball, and that's not specific enough for your body. Your body needs to know exactly where you want to have impact. The better you can do that, the better you're going to make consistent contact with the club face, and that's a big key to hitting both distance as well as direction, accuracy, and consistency. So those are two of my little tricks. Now let me show you how I do those. I'm going to bring the camera in really close, then we'll show you how I do it in a pre-shot routine. So here's how I do this to make sure my ball is always set up the same way. I take my tee, and if you're fortunate enough to have one that has a stripe on it, then you can use the stripe to judge exactly how far this thing is teed up out of the ground. But what I do is I put the tee between my fingers, and then I put the ball inside so that I can hold it like so and use the ball to actually push the tee into the ground. Then the next thing I'll do is I'll stick my ring finger of the right hand out, and then I'll use that like a plunger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the ground until the tip of my finger hits the tee, and then I'm going to be exactly the same height every single time. Now the second thing that I do is, regardless of where the ball is, I'll take it and then I'll rotate it. When I use range balls, since we have a red stripe out here, I'm going to put that in the back so it's at a 6 o'clock position. Now the target's that way, so the target's always 12 o'clock. Now one of the reasons that this is important is what it allows me to do is make sure that my eyes automatically go to exactly the same place. Now what I'm trying to do here is hit a draw. That's the shot that I want to hit when I'm out on the golf course. So what I imagine is, if this is my 6 o'clock position, I imagine my club actually entering at 6:30, coming across the ball, and exiting at 12:30. In other words, I'm going to have a very slightly inside out path, and as I allow my club face to release and close slightly, that's going to produce a draw motion. So where you put your eyes on the back of the golf ball is extremely important. Not only that, but because there's a red stripe, which is easy for our eyes to discern, what I'm able to do is make sure that when I hear the sound at impact, I know that my eyes are still exactly on the back of the golf ball. All right, let's tee ball up and let's see how we do this actually in practice. Again, ball between my fingers, stick my finger out like a plunger, get it in till the tip touches the ground, and then I take my golf ball and rotate it so that I have something at a 6 o'clock position. Now, in this case, since I'm going to be trying to hit a draw, my eyes are going to be very slightly inside at about a 6:30 position. I'm imagining my club traveling from 6:30 to 12:30 and letting the club face release and create a draw shape. So that's what I'm going to be looking to hit, and honestly, just by making sure your eyes are on the back of the ball, can't believe how that's going to improve your impact position. Now, one of the things that's tricky about this is you can't really always tell when your eyes are on the back of the ball, so you have to listen to the sound. Very common for me to see people come into the impact zone, and right before they get to the impact, something changes in their body rotation, and their body rotation actually takes their head and turns it out forward. That's a spine angle change, can leave the club face open, well, it can cause all kinds of different disasters to happen in the golf shot. So just by keeping the eyes on the back of the ball, I make sure that my spine angle is really consistent, and that gives me a lot more consistent shot. So let's see how we do this. Again, I'm going to be looking at the 6 o'clock position. My ball's teed up exactly the same height every time. I'm going to be looking to go 630 to 130, create a little draw shape. I start every shot back here. I get my target. I'm coming up. I do my routine. Get myself nice and square. And that's exactly the shape that I was trying to create. A nice little draw, probably about 10 yards, which is almost ideal for where I'm going to be hitting out there on the range in competition. I hope that's something that'll work for you. All right, time for me to practice myself. See you in the next video.